Well, I'm in touch on a regular basis with about 100 dissident academics, let's say, a number of them in Canada. There's an increasing number of people who've been pushed past the point where they can be pushed. And there are people who are slow to anger, I would say, but not pleasant once roused. And there's a lot more of them than there were 5 years ago. So that's all to the good. And I see that in Canada, in the US, and in the UK. That's really starting to gather steam and force, let's say. So the opposition is developing and organizing. So that's very helpful. I think the universities, for all intents and purposes, are done. I can't see any hope for them. Like, I've watched large organizations collapse for a variety of reasons. Over the last 20 years, I've been in a position to be communicating with people who've either shepherded them through a collapse or participated in the collapse, let's say. And large enterprises can fall apart very quickly once they start to fall apart, because a small number of people in any organization do all the work, and when the ship starts to sink, especially if it's scuttled by the people who are operating it, the competent people leave first. And there aren't that many of them, and as soon as they leave, you're done. And the universities haven't just made one fatal mistake, they've made like 7 fatal mistakes. And so I just can't see, they're still running on the glories of their past endeavors. They're like parasites in a whale carcass. That's a good way of thinking about it. And it's a good biological metaphor. And there's lots of whale left, but it'll run out soon. And I just can't see how they can possibly last. Now, I'm involved with a mortar and bricks university enterprise in Savannah, Georgia, called Ralston College. And we ran our first master's program this year, trying to produce a new educational institute that would compete. But I don't think that's where the real competition will take place. So on the academic front, there's some good news, but it's mostly just catastrophic. I'm just continually embarrassed beyond belief, especially at what's happening in the scientific community now on the hard science front. I knew when the woke mob hit the scientists that they'd sink through them like a hot knife through butter, because one thing about scientists is they aren't politically prepared, and they're generally quite contemptuous of such things, and to some degree rightly so, because good scientists are hyper-specialists and they have their head down and their nose to the grindstone, and they're experts in their tiny little domain, which is exactly what they're paid for, and thank God for all that needling away diligently. But when the ideological woke mob starts to knock at their door, they don't have the foggiest idea what to do. And so great scientific journals like Science and Nature have become woke corrupted in the last 2 years to a degree that's almost impossible to imagine. And one of the things I've really learned here is that the so-called death of God, right, that Nietzschean prophecy, Nietzsche knew that that would take out the churches and most of civil society, but it wasn't so obvious that it would take out science too, but it looks like it's going to. So none of that's good news, really. None of that's good news. Not in the let's say, in the overarching sense. I like to see the fact that people are gathering some steam in terms of pushing back, but I just can't see how the universities can maintain their hammerlock on education, given what they now offer for the money. Ideological indoctrination at $150,000 per degree, if you're lucky. It's just not a viable business model, let's say. To paraphrase our Prime Minister in relationship to liquid natural gas production, we can't